Hey man.
Hey, how you going?
Good, good. All right. So I think it's just about 12:30, so we can kick things off. Hi everyone.
Cool.
Thanks for joining in. All right. So did you know that there was over 12 million Google searches last year for how to make new friends? And this is not surprising when loneliness affects 75% of US adults aged between 25 and 40. For some, this is a short-term thing, and for others, it can lead to serious mental health issues and even suicide. Hi, everyone. My name is Dave Brown. For my day job, I run an Australian government program here in San Francisco for Australian tech scale-ups. I'm also currently the co-chair of the programming board for the San Francisco chapter of StartOut. For those that don't know, StartOut's mission is to increase the number of diversity and impact of LGBTQ plus founders and amplify their stories to drive the economic empowerment of the LGBTQ plus community. We inspire and accelerate LGBTQ plus startup founders through digital events and online resources, such as expert office hours, mentorship, connections to investors, and an online community. You can visit startout.org to join 17,000 like-minded LGBTQ plus entrepreneurs around the world. Today, we're doing a bit of an Aussie takeover, and my very special guest is Ben Stokes, the founder of SocialTable. SocialTable is a StartOut Growth Lab alumnus, and Ben is obviously a fellow Aussie. Ben also currently serves on the San Francisco board for StartOut and as a mentor at the Australian government program that we run here. Hi, Ben, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, Dave. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Not
It's
a
uh,
problem.
it's it's nice to see some Aussies on Anzac Day as well. So
Yeah, happy Anzac Day to you. Waking up
yeah,
just in time for the dawn service. It's currently 5:30 a.m. in Sydney, where Ben is joining us from. So thank you very
yeah,
much for getting up so early to be with us.
no
So
worries.
Ben, can you firstly just give us a bit of the origin story of SocialTable?
Yeah, sure. So SocialTable started because I personally needed it, which is kind of funny, I guess, when you think about when you start a startup. So I sort of like realized that most of my friends were starting to get married and started having kids, and I realized I wasn't in that sort of frame of mind at the time, and also really not in that life cycle. So I was like, look, how do you make new friends as an adult? And I kind of found it really hard. Like I tried Meetup and I tried dating apps and things like that. But it wasn't really the purpose of why I was actually looking for friends. And realized that there was a large gap in the market where people were really struggling to just connect and just make friends without there really being any agenda behind it. Yeah, so I started SocialTable just to sort of help with that. When I first started it, I kind of started with a group of random friends from different parts of my life and sort of put them together on a table at a dinner, and then I didn't actually show up to that dinner, and I sort of then did some research and worked out what people thought, and then sort of started taking it from there. Yeah, it started growing pretty fast, so we've had over, and it's done well. So I'm really happy with what I've done.
Yeah, awesome. And so, why do you think loneliness? I mean, I mentioned some pretty startling facts at the beginning of this feed. Like, why do you think loneliness is on the rise in our modern society, and why it's such a problem?
It's really interesting and how technology is supposed to help us connect, but it actually leaves a lot of people feeling more disconnected. And I think the reason is that there are five human senses, and a lot of those you can't really use when you're talking to someone over technology or like apps or things like that. In particular, like you can't even use your intuition, which I find really interesting. Loneliness in particular, I think when you look at like Instagram and people's Instagram stories look like they're living such a fabulous life when realistically, everybody's living a pretty similar life, but they may just put up photos that shows they're having a good time. And I think that really makes people feel like, they're missing out or they get their FOMO and things like that. Whereas really like, when you think about connecting and things like that, I think that there's always a guide, and technology sort of helps you lift or have that barrier. Whereas without it, you kind of are able to actually properly. So I think that's why people are feeling more lonely.
Great. So, what did SocialTable look like prior to the current COVID-19 shelter-in-place arrangements we're currently living under, and sort of what stage was the company at?
Yeah, sure. So it was a little bit different back then. Let's say that. So we were using SocialTable in a way that you can book and pay for a single seat at a group table at a restaurant as a way of meeting people. So think of it like dining with strangers and hopefully leaving with new friends at the end. So you literally would show up to a restaurant and just ask for, "Hey, I'm here for SocialTable," and the maitre d' would take you to your seat, to the table, and then you just sit down and actually just start joining when other people arrive, and start having dinner together. So everything was sort of prepaid. So there was no split bills. So there was no, I guess, animosity or any worry about meeting people and not knowing who had what or having to keep track of the bill. Everything was prepaid. So there wasn't really a worry with that. And also, like, we capture all your dietary requirements beforehand. So we knew if you were like a vegetarian, for example, you would get a different dinner than the rest of the table, just so that there was no worry about any food restrictions or dietary requirements as well. At the end of the dinner, obviously, everyone just sort of got up and left. Again, because everything was prepaid, you didn't really have to worry about having to split bills or work out payments, which was really good. It allowed you to really focus on creating friendships and connections. Before the dinner as well, we used to send an email or send a message with everyone's first name and a list of random facts that belong to the group. And your job over the dinner was to work out who the random fact belonged to. So it kind of helped gamify that getting to know each other process as well.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to be at the table of the first event you ran here in San Francisco, and can vouch firsthand that it works. It was very engaging, the random facts. It was hilarious to try and work out who they belong to. And we literally walked away from the table with new friends, and we went to Dolores Park afterwards, sat in the sun for a while. Some of us even ended up dancing the night away on the same day at the club. So, and Nicole, so I just joined, was one of the friends I walked away with from that table. So it really does work, and we're still great friends today. So tell us a little about what stage you were at with your company, prior to say March this year.
Yeah, sure. So I guess like what you can say is that we're really starting to kick off, which is kind of funny when you really think about it. I think all of that hard work that we've been putting in for the last few years have really started to pay off. So we were in the finals for Shark Tank Singapore. We're getting funding potentially from Dubai and the Middle East, which is great to sort of help. Obviously, Dubai is a massive hotspot for people coming in and out, a lot of expats as well. And then we're also doing events in as well as Australia. So we're kind of like really starting to go a little bit global, which is great. Like obviously people are traveling and things like that. So, the world is more global, not rather global anymore. So people are moving around so much. So I think it's really good to sort of see that. So I think, before COVID, I think we were really starting to get there. And then obviously COVID came in and sort of that we were operating, which is a bit of a bummer, but at the same time, it's given us a lot of opportunity for growth, which has been good too.
Yeah, excellent. So I think it's kind of obvious, but what has the impact been of the pandemic on that original business model?
Well, obviously, sadly, a lot of our restaurant partners are not operating now, or they've closed down, which has been really sad. I think that, obviously from a restaurant perspective, we definitely relied really heavily on our restaurant partners to be able to facilitate that engagement or that connection, which is a fair way of looking at life. Realistically, I don't think anyone could have predicted that all the restaurants were going to be shut for a few months or even longer, which is kind of funny when you think about it, but a bit sad also. So when we went through this, we've obviously had to think about a way that we could continue to move forward, and can keep people engaged and keep people connecting. I think particularly now with COVID, people are sheltering in place or in isolation, and it's become a lot lonelier. So, we're trying to help fix that and help people feel like they can still connect and they can still meet people as well.
Yeah, so tell us a bit about how you've done that. So how have you pivoted the company and its offering, and what is the current offering you're making available for your users?
Yeah, sure. So we've actually pivoted to a virtual SocialTable model, and so you can now go online to socialtable.co and actually book a seat, or book a virtual seat in a room where it's a maximum of 6 people per table, and you can actually go and meet people based on your local area as well. So we've got events in San Francisco, LA, New York, as well as Sydney, Hong Kong, Singapore, London, as well, and Dubai. And so like what that means is that people are able to actually meet local people, connect virtually, actually have a conversation, get to know each other. We sort of help facilitate that with questions and things like that to sort of help run the table, just to make it a little bit so it's not so frightening, and you can actually speak to people properly. But then beyond that, you know, when our restaurant partners open back up, we'll be able to actually get you back together in real life and meet people that you've actually spoken to before to carry on that conversation as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think, you know, like many, you know, I've been inundated with, you know, friends and family requesting FaceTime and social Zoom sessions for happy hour and stuff, plus having to do that all day, every day on the, you know, for work as well. It does get a bit taxing, you know, being in front of a computer screen all day, but it's great, you know, the idea of getting around a meal, you know, and sharing that experience rather than just being on the video conference. Really,
Yeah.
great idea.
I think it's interesting to think like Netflix is not a dinner companion, and I think that's the thing that, you know, yes, you know, everyone loves Tiger King and loves watching Tiger King and all of those extra shows on Netflix, but when you realize it, you know, like you actually can't really communicate with Tiger King. You know, you learn, but you don't really watch, or you watch, but you don't really communicate. And so I think, you know, one of the things that's really good about what we're able to offer is that we're actually able to help people really connect.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting model and a great sort of service you're providing. Interested to know how you see this from a business standpoint and how you monetize this, so that you can still continue to carry on business while you know, the restaurants aren't, you know, people aren't buying the meals, so you're not making sort of any money off it.
Yeah, so what we've been able to do is actually partner with the James Beard Foundation for their Restaurant Relief Fund. We're able to actually help support the restaurant industry whilst we're in this time of isolation. So, you know, you're able to make a donation through us to the James Beard restaurant, which obviously goes to the restaurants, which I think is great. But beyond that as well, like we're starting to look at different ways to sort of help. So, you know, we're looking at partnering with some wineries to offer wine and things like that through our service, which means that you can actually do a wine tasting with the winemaker themselves. And obviously looking forward, we're looking at partnering with other organizations like Uber Eats or Deliveroo or you know, Grubhub, for example, and just sort of working out if we can partner with them just to sort of help give the restaurants back some cash in their pocket so that they can continue to operate in this time as well. Yeah,
and Nicole just made that comment on the live chat as well. I think the ability to partner with the food delivery business, give an offer so that people can use it then or use it next time if they can't wait for the meal just there and then. You know, all those things are completely possible, and there's, you know, a lot of demand for those services at the moment, obviously, that we're all seeing. And it's great that you're supporting the Restaurant Relief Fund. I'm an ex-hospitality business owner. 5 years ago, I sold my business in Sydney, and I can only imagine what my you know, colleagues and friends in Australia are going through at the moment, with not being able to operate their businesses normally. So what other roles do you see SocialTable playing in helping the restaurants and other places of social gatherings once the restrictions are sort of lifted?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously like restaurants are going to try and get people in as fast as they can. And you know, I think it's great that the community definitely will be helping with that. I think one of the things that we're able to do is actually help by creating tables rather than just solo diners eating by themselves, which means that the restaurants are a lot fuller. So if you think about it, like, we can guarantee revenue because, you know, everything's prepaid and there's a table of 6 or a table for 10, for example, who will come in. So when you've guaranteed 10, you know, you can actually work out staff numbers. You know that you're going to get paid as well. So it's kind of helping them, you know, start that engine back up. I think also the fact that we're able to get new people into their restaurants and sort of promote and advertise through our site as well, I think it's definitely going to help the restaurants get more foot traffic through the door as well. Great.
And what's it been like, just the process for you as a sole founder of a young company having to deal with this crisis? Like, what has it meant to you? Like, what has the thought process been? how have you sort of coped over the last couple of months? I mean, obviously you were here in the US, you had to return to Australia because of the travel restrictions and advisories and stuff that were going on. What's it done personally to you, and how have you sort of been able to you know, get some clarity and pivot your business, and what's sort of gone through your mind over this time?
If I must be honest with you, like it wasn't easy to begin with. I think one of the big things I really struggled with was the fact that all of the decisions and all the choices that I had sort of been, and the decisions I'd made previously had all kind of almost been taken away from me in a sense. Like, you know, I had to leave the US pretty fast because of the restrictions. They sort of came out of nowhere. And then obviously moving forward from that, you know, obviously I had a business that operated in like with restaurants and partnered with restaurants. So moving forward, I kind of felt like everything that I'd done had sort of fallen apart. However, you know, like I got back on my feet. You know, I had 6.5 weeks in isolation myself, so I kind of was forced to really get myself thinking and go, look, you know, is this a challenge or is this going to be something that I can overcome? And so I've got a team with me now as well. So we built the company up a little bit. So Corbin, my new co-founder, and I sort of sat down together and really thought about what we could do to move forward. And initially, I kind of was a little bit hesitant to go with the virtual social table rooms. And I think the reason for that was, you know, the fact that, you know, there are other products like Chat Roulette, for example, where things have not always been as straightforward and as I guess PC as you would want them to be. Whereas with what we've created, we kind of are sort of screening guests and knowing that that's not going to be an issue or any incidents of that as well. So I think that sort of really made me think about what am I doing, how do I do it, and sort of made me really go, well, what's the piece that we really offer? And what we offer is a way to connect in a low pressure environment. And I think that was the thing that kept pushing me forward to create what we've done now.
Yeah, excellent. So what impact do you think the current sort of social distancing that we're in, and that might continue for a little bit longer, especially in some parts, what impact is that having on loneliness sort of now, and what could be some of the long-term implications?
Yeah, I think, you know, obviously, as I said, like I went through 6.5 weeks of isolation myself, and it was really depressing, I must say. Like I was really quite not in a good space. I will say. I think that I kind of feel like I really needed that human connection. And when I started, you know, just sitting and watching Netflix or TV and just not really connecting with anyone, I definitely got lonely. I think when I notice now when I walk to the supermarket and things, people are keeping a distance. Nobody's really, like, people will cross the road to walk on the opposite side of the street so that they don't actually walk near you. And it definitely does make you feel like you're almost like a leper in a sense. You've got like leprosy or a disease. So I think one of the things that I've realized now is that when we can actually go back and start communicating again and actually be back in normal society, I think I really like to see that people really make the effort to get to know each other and connect. You know, there's always that smile or that nod when you're standing in front of in a coffee line, waiting for coffee with the social distancing rules and things. So I think that when people start getting back together, I think we'll really see a resurgence of community and people working together to sort of, you know, support local businesses and support each other again. That's what I hope anyway. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I think it's been interesting to see recently with some of the, you know, some areas coming out saying now that, you know, face masks need to be worn. You can't even see that smile as you're walking past someone anymore. And sometimes, even if you were to say hello, like you can't, it's all muffled often and you can't even hear that, you know, anymore. So it's even harder to communicate even if you did want to do that. And as you said, exactly, most people do, you know, keep that distance and cross the road and stuff. So do you have any tips for those watching of how to combat some of those loneliness elements and isolation problems while social distancing?
Well, I definitely will say to you, like, you know, jump online, jump on Zoom, start connecting and talking to people again. I think that was the biggest learning I had. Like when I was in isolation for quite a while, I wasn't actually using the camera on my screen. I was, you know, more talking on the phone itself. And I realized that I actually really miss seeing people's faces and things like that. So one of the things I would definitely recommend is jumping online, SocialTable is one of the places you can do that to meet new people. But even with old friends and things like that, make sure that you do set up Zoom rooms. One thing that you're able to do with SocialTable, because you can limit the number of people that are joining, you can actually join a table with your friends anyway, and just have it with your group of friends rather than setting up your own Zoom accounts and things. But yeah, like I think one of that is really important. Particularly, I noticed for myself, like when you couldn't see anyone and you couldn't really communicate, it definitely felt lonely. So I hope that more people are starting to take that initiative and really use those the technology that's available to do that. For sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, even though kind of at times feel like I don't want to do it, jumping on after work and doing those things with your friends and people you haven't spoken to for even quite a while, it's kind of a reason to do it. It's kind of like the gym, right? I kind of never want to go, but as soon as I do it, I always like that I've done it. And it's exactly the same thing with these sort of social video conferences. So that's all really great. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, keep going.
No, you go. You can finish up.
Oh, I was going to say last night actually we had a conversation with somebody in like a social table with somebody in Spain, somebody in Austria, and 2 people in Sydney. And I was fortunate enough to join it as well. And what was interesting to know was that all of us, even though we're in different parts of the world, we're actually going through the same experiences and the same, I guess, like struggles being in isolation. And so it's interesting to see the perspectives from other people who are, living the same life in a different country, and understanding how they were and how they were going through things. Obviously, things in Spain are a lot more intense than the things in Australia, but just understanding what Antonio was going through was really interesting. And I think it really showed that, we are humans and there's a humanity behind this. And when we all join together and get through, I think that it's really good to move forward with that too.
Yeah, awesome. You've certainly given me some ideas of, some friends and old friends, very old friends that we can reach out to and do that sort of whole around the world thing, and it'd be quite cool. So finally, to wrap up, given that you, are a foreign founder and you came to the US to continue your business here, I'm interested to know what your experience has been like as a foreign founder in the US so far.
Yeah, sure. Like, I always looked at the US as the land of opportunity. That the big goal, the big dream was always to move to the US. And it's been awesome to be able to say that I've done that now. And we'll continue to do that when I can actually get back there. But I think, one of the things about being a foreign founder is that you start to really think outside the box and start learning a lot more. I think, the world is a very big place, and it's great to be able to sort of test the market and see what works in different regions. Obviously, the way that we've done things in Australia is very different than the way that we've done things in the US. So it's good to sort of like test the market, understand what people are looking for. I've definitely enjoyed the journey. It's not always been easy, as you can sort of guess and tell, and particularly now, could never have expected COVID to happen. But it's been a challenge, and one of the big things I've learned is that you can always get through them as well. So I think being a foreign founder in the US has been fun. It's definitely been a challenge, but it's also made me a better person as well. And I think I definitely have more of a global outlook on life, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we certainly look forward to having you back here with us sometime soon in San Francisco or California. But just before we sign off, there was a comment or a question from Brad on the chat. Have you considered partnering with mental health professionals or maybe community centers to combat loneliness as we move through this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we actually looked at partnering with Beyond Blue, which is one of the large organizations here in Australia, and also I think moving forward, I think that's a really good suggestion. So I'll definitely take that on board and start reaching out to some of those organizations. I think that particularly around mental health and loneliness and, obviously depression as well, I think that there's definitely a place for connection. And I know for myself, when I've been through feeling lonely and stuff, like the thing that really fixed me or helped me as an extrovert was actually getting to meet people and connecting again. So I think that was really good suggestion. So I'll definitely look at that.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Ben. It's been great to talk to you again. And as I said, we look forward to seeing you in person again as soon as possible.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Cheers. Enjoy the rest of your Anzac Day.
Thanks. I will probably head back to bed. I'll speak to you soon.
Cheers. See ya.
Yeah, bye.